Order the regular governing board meeting of the Jefferson Elementary School District. It's February 10th, 2016, 7 p.m. Could we have members present, please?
Shaquille Ali,
Here.
Manufo Leah Inga Anawai,
Here.
Marie Brizuela,
Here.
Clayton Koo,
Here.
Rebecca Douglas.
Here. All right, and I believe we have some students from T.R. Policita Middle School who are going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Is that true? Yep. All right, good. Come on up and do it. Go to the microphones in the middle.
Please stand, put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, gentlemen. I believe that they are presenting in a few minutes also, so we'll give them their, yeah. Okay, just take one moment to review our board meeting guidelines. Ferry's coming into the dock.
Fire department going on a call.
Is that what that red horn is?
You have to go to Grover to know that.
You hear it all over Daly City, and I've had people ask me, and I'm like, well, it sounds a lot like the
They
ferry
do
boat
it, I
horn.
think they did it at 8 o'clock in the morning, noon, and then in
And-
the evening, 4 o'clock or 5
That's
o'clock.
good to know.
But when you hear it like that,
Why we heard the
there's an
foghorn.
emergency out there.
Yeah, that's great. We all learned something tonight. Okay, all right.
That's right.
That is why we're here. It is about education, yeah.
Really, you didn't know that?
I mean, yeah, I've heard it, but,
I wonder why I heard it on a sunny day, too. It's not foghorn.
well, I was pretty sure it wasn't a foghorn because it came from the inland side. No. Okay, could we have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay. All right, we have a couple of public hearings. I want to start with A, Cava at San Mateo, petition for charter reauthorization. The board will hold a public hearing to receive comments from members of the public on Cava at San Mateo's petition for charter reauthorization from Jefferson Elementary School District, opening that hearing at 7:03 p.m. And I do not have any speaker cards for this item. So we will close that hearing at 7:04 p.m., just stretching a point. We also have item B, Educator Effectiveness Funds Proposal. The board will hold a public hearing to receive comments from members of the board on Jefferson Elementary School District's proposed uses of the Educator Effectiveness Funds from the California Department of Education. These funds are to be used for the purposes of supporting professional development of certificated teachers, administrators, and paraprofessional educators. Opening that hearing at 7:04 p.m., and I do not have any speaker cards for that item either. So we will close that hearing at 7:04 p.m. Okay. This brings us to our special presentations. We have 2 of them tonight. We want to first recognize the annual Dorothy Boyajian Honored Teacher Award. And we have Gina Quaney, MLK Day Planning Team Member, who will acknowledge the recipient of the annual Dorothy Boyajian Honored Teacher Award, Ms. Luisa Santos, teacher at Ben Franklin Middle School.
Yay.
And this event took place January 19th at the Martin Luther King Jr. Day
Dr.
celebration.
Douglas, Ms. Santos has a class at San Francisco State, and she doesn't get here till 7:15, so we will postpone that.
Okay, so we will postpone that because I would really like the person we're honoring to be here. Well, in that case, we'll move right to our second presentation, which is on the World Language Instruction Program at Thomas R. Policita Middle School. Julie Brosnan, teacher at TR Policita Middle School, teaches 2 year-long French electives at TRP, where there's an emphasis on speaking and understanding, including instruction in grammar, vocabulary, reading, and culture. And we have, I believe, 3 students and a teacher here to perform 2 short skits that focus on greetings, salutations, and family vocabulary.
Well, thank you for having us. I'm Ben Turner, principal at Policita Middle School. Thank you for the wonderful introduction. You basically took my job away. So I will, without further ado, hand it over to Ms. Brosnan, who is the wonderful teacher of our French language class for over 20 years.
Bonsoir, messieurs et mesdames. Bonsoir. Je suis la professeure de français à mon école où je travaille. Et ce soir, j'aimerais vous présenter 2 petites conversations avec Jean-Luc et André. S'il vous plaît, messieurs.
Bonjour, monsieur.
Bonjour monsieur, ça va?
Ça va bien, merci. Et toi?
Ça va bien. Comment t'appelles-tu?
Je m'appelle Jean-Luc. Et toi?
Je m'appelle André. Quel âge as-tu?
J'ai 12 ans. Quel âge as-tu?
J'ai 13 ans. Comment s'appelle ta mère et ton père?
Ma mère s'appelle Iliana et mon père s'appelle Francisco.
Quel âge a ton père et ta mère?
Ma mère a 45 ans et mon père a 44 ans. Comment s'appelle ta mère et ton père?
Ma mère s'appelle Eden et mon père s'appelle Chucky.
Quel âge a ta mère et ton père?
Ma mère a 40 ans et mon père a 45 ans. Je suis américaine, je suis de San Francisco. Et toi?
Je suis américain, je suis de San Francisco aussi.
Oh, tu es de San Francisco aussi?
Oui. Tiens, qui est-ce?
C'est Madame Brosnan, c'est ma prof. Tiens, qui est-ce?
C'est Sophie. Où est Monsieur Turner?
Voilà, monsieur. Où est mon père?
Voilà ton père.
Tu as faim?
Oui, j'ai faim.
Qu'est-ce que tu veux?
Donne-moi un café et un croissant.
Voici un croissant et un café.
Merci.
Bon appétit.
Tu as faim?
Oui, j'ai faim.
Qu'est-ce que tu veux?
Donne-moi une baguette et un Perrier.
Voilà ton baguette et ton Perrier. Bon appétit.
Merci.
Ciao, André.
À la prochaine fois, Jean.
Bonjour, mademoiselle.
Bonjour madame,
Ça va?
ça va bien, merci et toi?
Ça va très bien, merci. Comment t'appelles-tu?
Je m'appelle Sophie et toi, comment t'appelles-tu?
Je m'appelle Julie. Et quel âge as-tu?
J'ai 13 ans et toi?
Moi, je ne sais pas. Ah, ok. J'ai 50 ans. Et comment s'appellent ton père et ta mère?
Mon père s'appelle Anthony et ma mère s'appelle Maria. Et toi, comment s'appelle ton frère et ton père?
Mon père s'appelle Ramon et mon frère s'appelle Ramon aussi. Les deux sont égales. Et quel âge a ta mère et ton père?
Ma mère a 30 ans et mon père a 32 ans. Quel âge a ton père et ton frère?
Mon père est très vieux, mais il est jeune au cœur et il a 86 ans. Et mon frère, il a 64 ans. Je suis américaine, je suis de Los Angeles. Et toi, Sophie, quelle nationalité es-tu? Tu es française?
J'ai américain, je suis de San Francisco.
Très bien. Sophie, où est ton père?
Voilà mon père. Où est Madame Jennings?
Je ne sais pas. Où est Madame Jennings? Ah, voilà. Très bien. Et qui est-ce?
C'est Monsieur Turner. Qui est-ce?
Oh, c'est Jake. Et, ah oui, Jacques. Sophie, tu as beaucoup faim?
Oui, j'ai beaucoup faim.
Et qu'est-ce que tu veux comme nourriture?
Donne-moi un Perrier et une croque-madame.
Un croque-madame, c'est pour toi. Et un Perrier. Bon appétit, Sophie.
Merci. Tu as faim?
Moi, j'ai beaucoup faim.
Qu'est-ce que tu veux?
Donne-moi, s'il te plaît, un chocolat chaud et un croissant.
Voilà, un chocolat chaud et un croissant.
Délicieux.
Bon
Merci.
appétit.
Merci, Sophie. À la prochaine fois.
À bientôt, madame.
Au revoir. Merci.
Ah, merci à vous. Well, that was impressive. C'est tout. You got me almost wanting, I started to respond to that in French. I understand it better than I can speak it anymore after about 25 years. But, un peu. We want to thank you all for doing that. Ask if any of the board members have questions about the program or things you want to say? Or if any of you want to say anything further about the program.
Just that we love having the opportunity to, just be able to teach a year-long elective. It seems to be well liked by the students, and they enjoy the cultural aspect, getting to cook. At Christmas time, we cook bûche de Noël, and they've made crêpe au chocolat. We incorporate grammar and vocabulary on a weekly basis. It's very structured. I used to be a high school French teacher, so they get a lot of curriculum, and by June, I think they know quite a bit of French.
It sounds like.
Yeah.
How many students do you have?
I have 27 in one class and 24 in another. And it's a mixed grade level, 6, 7, 8. And it's nice to have the different ages all together at once.
That's great.
Sounds great. The students did a wonderful job. Thank you for coming and sharing. I didn't understand all the words, but it sounded really good. The teachers seemed to be happy, so you must have gotten
Yes.
the words right. But thank you for coming and showing us how well you can speak another language.
Thank you. That was very impressive. I do have a question.
Oh,
What
sure.
does that look like if they're taking it, are they able to take it 3 years as an elective, or is the option only for 1 year and then?
Right now, it's just 1 year because there's not enough numbers to have a class of French 2. We tried very hard last year to get at least 15 kids, and there were 15 that had taken French 1 that were interested in a French 2, but it just didn't fly. We have the materials, thanks to Mr. Valenti.
I believe it.
I'll take credit.
So it's because we have over 48 students, it's something that we can look, forward to having, question the students if they're interested in a French 2 and continue that. And there are high school entrance exams. If they do well enough, they can be placed immediately into French 2 in high school.
That was my next question,
Yes,
so
they
that's
could-
awesome to
Yeah, they
hear.
could get high school credit.
Yeah, yeah. Merci beaucoup. À bientôt.
À bientôt.
I took French 20 years ago, so.
This is good.
Well, I too would like to commend Ms. Brosnan and the students for their great work. Keep moving forward. And I just had a question also is, what can we do to support your program more? Or is there anything we can do?
More opportunities to have the students speak in front of groups, and I think that builds their confidence and motivates them.
All right, great.
More food. Food, but yeah, a week ago they ate escargot.
Oh,
And the Mardi Gras. I'm excited about that.
Everybody's like, oh.
I've never eaten escargot.
Garlic and butter.
That's what I hear. Did you?
I was also gonna say thank you.
1995, so
was also going to say thank you for the skit. It was a great skit. I was going to ask if you guys had a second year of French, what kind of different kind of coursework or what kind of different opportunities would you kind of present to the kids?
Well, having taught all 4 years plus AP French, it's just ready to go. The vocabulary, gets more difficult. The verbs, all the irregular verbs they have to know, and we just build on more vocabulary. And past tense and present tense, future tense, subjunctive tense.
Like a true teacher.
We didn't have field trips when Nora's bakery was next up on the Angels. Nora and I would arrange fake euros, and the kids would come to the bakery with their fake euros, and she had like preset prices for pastries, and the kids would ask for une éclair au chocolat or un croissant au chocolat, and she would make up a price, and the kids would pay in their euros. That was, and then the bakery closed. So we are looking for a bakery to do that.
French bakery.
But I think that would involve transportation.
If there isn't anything close to the school.
But that would be the most wonderful field trip.
Pain au chocolat.
Thank you.
Thank you very
And
much.
I want to just thank you all very much. And we do have some certificates for these students. I'm not sure which ones we give to you guys. Oops, would you like to give one to you? One or the other of you. Go ahead.
Continue, you come in.
okay.
Yeah, we'll let you. Yeah. You sure?
Just want to thank the students for leading us in the pledge and for coming out and presenting to us.
I have one for my son, Amara.
This one is for Cielo Garcia.
And this one's for Daniel Barista.
Et aussi des éclairs au chocolat pour les étudiants. Et bon appétit. Voilà.
Et merci beaucoup et bonsoir.
She's here now.
She's here now. Okay, so I understand our honoree is here now so we can return to our presentation number 1, our Honored Teacher Award, which I introduced a moment ago, so I
Yeah,
won't go
so,
through it all again.
Good evening.
I'm Spiny. I just want to say.
Go ahead. Okay.
So I just did want to say that this is an annual award, and Mr. Parrish, principal of Ben Franklin School, nominated Ms. Santos for the award, and Ms. Quiney was part of the committee that selected the winners. And we're going to do a mock presentation. She did receive it officially on January 19th, Martin Luther King holiday. That would be the 18th, I think, yeah. Monday the 18th. So anyway, now Ms. Quiney, you may step forward.
I'm sorry I keep jumping the gun. I'm very excited to do
Not at all.
this. So as Superintendent Vidales introduced, I sit on the MLK planning team, and actually Shaquille Ali had joined us for several years on the MLK Day planning team. And every year we honor teachers with the Dorothy Boyajian Honored Teacher Award. It's named after a San Mateo teacher who taught social justice both in the classroom and through her actions, and was very much committed to the teachings of Dr. King. And so every year we recognize a teacher who also reflects Dr. King's teaching role and the commitment to social justice. And this year we honored Luisa Santos, and she was nominated by Principal James Parrish, and we were very impressed with the nomination. And we're especially excited at the MLK celebration, where she gave an incredibly inspiring spoken word. So I'd like to invite her up and represent the awards that we presented her on January 18th. Please come forward.
Thank you so much.
No problem. with a plaque and also a commendation on behalf of the Board of Supervisors, as well as commendations from both State Senator Jerry Hill and Assembly Member Kevin Mullen. And finally, and this is yours.
Thank you.
Ms. Santos will be recognized in perpetuity on the MLK Day honorary plaque, yes, that travels with us. And just so you know, you are the final name. And so congratulations yet again.
Thank you so much.
It was an honor.
Thank you. Oh my gosh. Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening to the board. Good evening, everyone that's here. Again, I want to say thank you to my principal, James Parrish, for nominating me. So let's give it up for him. And just thank you for believing in me and always supporting me in the work that we do at our school. And I want to thank our Ben Franklin community, the staff, the students, the parents, who are continuously an inspiration to me. So I'd like to share my spoken word piece with you all, if that's okay.
Yes, please do.
Yes? Okay. Is it okay if I stand over here so that I can?
Yeah, we kind of actually do need.
I don't need a mic. Is that okay?
She's, okay, if the TV will pick it up, okay?
I want to see everyone.
You face that mic towards her.
Sorry, I'm in the master's program at State and I rushed over here, so I just need to collect myself really quick. As an educator, I feel that it is my duty to inspire the youth so they can be agents of social change, so they can break the chains of oppression which have left some of our brothers and sisters in remains. But what remains is the hope of Dr. King's dream come true. Because although we've come a long way, I still think we have so much more work left to do. So it is up to us to be role models in how we live out his dream, so that our children and our children's children can truly be judged by the content of their character, not by what is physically seen. Because I'm tired of seeing all this hate and discrimination, when in reality, we're all just human beings. So thank you, Dr. King, for showing us that it truly is love that reigns supreme. So we must continue to love one another, no matter religion, race, creed, or color, because I am your sister and you are my brother. You see, we are all just one big human family. There is only one race, and that is called humanity. So let's stop all the hate and insanity. Because no matter the color of your skin, it is life that we all claim. So tonight I raise my fist up in honor of Dr. King's name, for reminding us that although we may look different on the outside, on the inside, we are all the same. Thank you so much. That's all. Thank you.
Don't run way too fast. I think we all want to acknowledge that we're incredibly proud to have teachers like you in our district serving our students. And I want to say that that was a really moving presentation.
It's an honor to share that with you as well. So, thank you.
I know Mr. Parrish, we'd asked him to say a few words, and after that, I know it's tough, but he is a silent type, so thank you, Mr. Parrish.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I mean, as you can tell by the passion of Luisa Santos, she definitely was a worthy candidate to be selected for that award. Her leadership and commitment to Ben Franklin with our advisory program, restorative justice, and being a part of our positive behavior, PBIS, Positive School Climate Team, the work that we're doing with our students, she really was a catalyst behind it. And sometimes, you know, being a catalyst, as Dr. King was, he had vision. Sometimes people don't believe in that vision, but I believed in her vision, and This is our second year having advisory. It's expanded, and some of the things that we're putting in place that I've come and presented to you before about our school has just been really phenomenal. And I mean, she hasn't done it by herself, but she's been the key component to making that happen. And I'm just so proud that you were able to hear what she had to say today, and I'm so proud of her being a teacher at Ben Franklin. So thank you very much, and congratulations again.
Congratulations once again. Keep up the great work. I'm so excited to hear your spoken word, and more excited though with the work that you're doing with our youth and our students at Ben Franklin and in Daly City and Broadmoor, Colma. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing, and how fitting that we're in the month of February. We're celebrating Black History Month. You spoke of love and peace. We're upon Valentine's Day weekend. So, I mean, you embody everything that the award embraces. You embody the person that this award is named after. And I think we're so fortunate to have someone in our district serving our children and empowering them just by your voice and your presence. And that comes from top down too. So thank you for your leadership, Mr. Parrish, because you're taking the time to recognize this talent. It's so important that as administrators that we continue to see the talent that is within our schools and empower them to be more, because that resonates across the board. Her being selected, her being recognized, empowers the rest of the staff and the rest of our district to do more and be better. So I expect to hear your name much more than tonight. I do. And I expect that for the students that we heard from, and I didn't realize that was your son. Very impressed. And you need to test your dad with his French tonight, so. But thank you from the bottom of my heart. My daughter went to Ben Franklin, so I'm a little bit biased sometimes, and Mr. Parrish was her principal at the time too. So keep up the great work. Thank you.
Hard to follow all this. Louisa, I want to thank you so much. When you said you wanted to step over there, I was afraid you weren't going to be heard on TV. I think everybody could hear it. But the message was wonderful. Your spirit is amazing. And I know that if you're doing this kind of work, the students are going to pick up on it. And we need more people to be like this. Maybe we can get you later to mentor others. But it's exciting because so often we hear that students are feeling not part of the group, and it's not okay. And the message that you said was so clear and so wonderful. I was trying to hold back tears because it means a lot to hear it. So keep it up, and I'm sure that you're going to go to fine places, but don't leave our district.
That's right.
I also want to congratulate you, Ms. Santos, on your award. Your spoken word was amazing. I've heard many people do spoken word, and yours was by far one of the top ones I've ever heard. And I also wanted to say thank you for all that you do for our students in our school district. I think we're all extremely proud to call you one of our own, and I'm sure this entire community is proud to call you one of our teachers. So I want to congratulate you on that again.
Dr. Rebecca. Also, I want to thank Gina before she leaves as well, and Rabbi Jay. They've been keeping this great event going for years now, and staying consistent and on top of it. So thank you for coming as well.
All right, let's give one last round of applause. Thank you.
I don't think the Academy Awards is going to be this.
Yeah.
Since you did mention Rabbi Jay, I did want to mention he would have loved to be here. He is on a trip right now in Israel. And so, but he felt like it was important that we recognize this in a timely fashion and didn't want to hold off our recognition until he returned. But he loves to come and honor the honorees as well. So he selected Ms. Quiney to come and present the award.
All right, thank you. Okay, this brings us to item 8, communications, persons wishing to address the board, and I have a speaker card from Ms. Melinda Dart.
Good evening, Melinda Dart, AFT 3267. I too wanted to add my congratulations to Luisa Santos for her award. It's and for sharing her eloquent spoken word with us. It's wonderful to see her taking on the restorative justice model, which only has begun to be implemented in our district, and just running with it at her site. And it's an inspiration to all of us. And I also wanted to congratulate Ms. Brosnan, and I promised her that, that I would speak on behalf of the idea of, wouldn't it be great if we had languages in all our middle schools across the district, and had, as you were asking questions about the further years of French, it would be great if we could offer more language, and I know it's difficult. I know it's a scheduling issue. I know it's a monetary issue, but as we look at the schools our children deserve in our district, maybe we can consider adding languages at our other middle schools as well in the future. And I did want to let everyone know that I'm coming back from Sacramento today, and along the lines of let's add programs instead of cut them, I wanted to let everyone know that today in Sacramento we discussed the Children's Education and Healthcare Protection Act of 2016. And what that is the extension of Proposition 30, which is being formed now as that will become an initiative, first of all. I'm already holding petitions to get it on the ballot in the fall. Various groups are coming together to support it, and I know that no one in our district here wants to go back to the days where these meetings had to discuss what to cut from our programs. So I just want everyone to know, though, that it's going to take a village. It's going to take all of us to work for that extension of Prop 30. And there are two ways that you as board members and all of us can help. One way is to collect signatures to get it on the ballot, and I've got those petitions if people would ever want to ask me about them. And another way is for school boards to pass resolutions in support of the Prop 30 extension. So I would like you to, if you can, to put this on the agenda for future discussion. And I have sample resolutions here that I can give you now. And I look forward to talking about it in the future and working on it together, because as you know, those funds have done a lot for our district, and we don't want to go backwards, we want to go forwards, right? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, administrator comments. Ms. McCulloch?
Yes, good evening. There's a lot going on right now. I just first want to thank Ms. Brosnan and the students from TRP for their wonderful presentation, and their accents were, I knew French a little bit in high school, so très bien, I should say. I'm very embarrassed that I don't remember much of my French, but I want to thank them. I also want to continue the accolades from Ms. Luisa Santos, because not only did she receive this deserving award, but she also coordinated their career day at Ben Franklin, which I was extremely impressed by. Had, I think, 50 volunteers to come through.
Yeah, like about 50 presenters.
Yeah, and I actually volunteered, but she had so many, I said, you know, I'll step back. So it was just a really impressive day, very well organized. So, you know, she's a gem at Ben Franklin, as well as there were a lot of other people involved, and she took the lead. So I want to thank everyone at Ben Franklin for that great experience that they provided for students. Also, we had our STEM fair this weekend, the Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math fair, that was led by Jennifer Knopf, Principal at Daniel Webster, and she had support from one of our administrative interns, Greg Conser, from SBA. And so we'll be presenting that at the next board meeting. And there was lots of family nights. Next week is President's Week, so it's no school for students, just to remind families. And we're in the process of enrollment for next year. So enrollment for kinder families, and then we're also accepting this as time for the lottery as well. So the end of February is the deadline for submitting intra transfers as well. So much going on. I'm sure I'm forgetting something, but just remind folks about next week as well.
It was great to start this meeting in such a positive way, to see all the families here, or the people here enjoying it, participating. It's active, and it's great to see Julie again and those students. And I saw more families here than I think I did at Policito in the last few months I was there. A few things that happened recently. I went to New York City with my colleague Paul Hagan a few weeks ago. Unfortunately, we were trapped there for 1 or 2 extra days. The collaboration just went beyond our belief. But we were at an AFT, United Federation of Teacher Labor Conference right there in downtown, and the focus was on collaboration, and it was not only labor management collaboration, but collaboration at the school site, how teachers can collaborate better, and as well as the relationships they have with their partners in administration and at the district level as well. It was also really great I've known Paul for years. It was really good to kind of get to know him. We've sat across the table from each other on more than one occasion in negotiations. So I'm looking forward to building on our already strong relationship as partners as we move towards our students' interests. Also, let me turn to my other side. We have quite a few recruitment activities coming up. Last year was tough. We had a lot of teachers to hire, a lot of new staff, so I wanted to get a jump on that. So we have at UC Berkeley, it's they're mock interviews with, in the morning it's with principal and administrative candidates, and that's put on by the Principal Leadership Institute out of UC Berkeley. And then in the afternoon they have teacher mock interview panels through the Graduate School of Education. Ironically, that's how I got introduced to this school district. I was a teacher candidate, and Bryna Rifkin, who was my student teaching mentor, brought me up to this mock interview, and Virginia Opperman was on it. And that's how I slowly got introduced. She was our special ed director at the time. So if it worked for me, it must work for other people. So it'll be a good opportunity. March 12th, we have a career day at San Francisco State with the Graduate School of Education. And then April 2nd at the San Mateo County Office of Ed, there's a teacher recruitment fair with participating districts only from San Mateo County. So it's going to be a great series of events, and I hope I can get our name out there for new folks.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Board member acknowledgements and commendations. Mr. Reed?
I just want to acknowledge that I'm also working with the Graduate College of Education at San Francisco State. I've been selected to be on the Dean's Advisory Committee, and we are working right now on creating a teacher pipeline, getting teachers, highly qualified teachers into the classroom as soon as possible without, I'm sure there's still going to be red tape, but try to eliminate some of it. But some of the ideas that are being thrown out there are, of course, teacher housing, loan forgiveness. At San Francisco State, starting this spring, you can you can minor in education, which they didn't have that before. You can major in whatever you want and minor in education. So those are just some of the ideas that are being worked on, and yep, that's it.
Thank you. This Saturday, I know that Daly City Park and Rec is having their Black History Month celebration at Westlake at Dolger, and that begins at 12. And it's a great event for our communities to participate in. I think this is the 17th annual this Saturday. Excuse me. I know that around the country, a lot of our student athletes have been busy with signing day, and a product of JESD out of Daniel Webster, who currently goes to De La Salle now. My nephew, Boss Tangaloa, happened to be a actually he was the #1 defense lineman recruited in the country, and has Harbaugh was all over the news trying to get him, which was exciting. But he actually decided to go to UCLA. And so I think it's great to see our kids thrive in what they love to do. I say that all the time. And to have an opportunity to go to UCLA, a great institution, and be able to play a sport that he loves is exciting, not just for my family, but I think it's wonderful that he's a product of JESD. So it's just wonderful. And in the spirit of Black History Month, I did want to acknowledge another product of JESD, who is Samoan and African American, and she is the first one of her of African American descent and Pacific Islander to serve as the president of the Commission on Status of Women here in San Mateo County. So she just started her role. She just started that role this January, and I think it's wonderful that we're able to do that. On a different level, my sister-in-law is the first African American to serve in her capacity as the executive vice president for CBS. And she is African American descent, and I think it's wonderful that we have role models who are able to do this, because she's also on the board for Make-A-Wish and Boys and Girls Club of America, and these are role models that we hope our children continue to have and to look forward to celebrate. So I'm wishing everyone and their families a happy Valentine's Day weekend, and also a happy Black History Month.
So the Black History Month is going to be down at Dolger, right?
Dolger, yeah.
Because I know we go down there, and it's a great program, and it's and the food's good and everything. So everybody go down there on Saturday. I did want to say I did come to the district office and visited the technology department, which is amazing. That's the only word I can use. It is wonderful, and you know that was the area of our district office that was rented out to like a church group, and they did that for a long time because we didn't have anything to put in there because we got rid of a lot of positions and things long ago. But now it's good to know that we're using our facility to its fullest for the benefit of the students and the teachers and everyone that needs technology like me. But I just wanted to say it was really great, and I was really happy with what I saw there.
That's good.
Other than that, I don't have too much else to report.
I went to a couple events the past couple weeks. The first one I went to was the Family Night at TR Policita. It was about teenage behaviors and trying to introduce parents on how to deal with teenage self-esteem and peer pressure issues. There were about 50, 60 parents and kids there, and I thought it was a great presentation, in-depth. It was really interactive with all the parents, brainstorming ways to work with their teens. So I thought that was a great job, and I just want to congratulate the AFT 367 on a great event planned. And then I also went to the STEM fair last Saturday. I saw Ms. McCulloch and Ms. Douglas at the event, and the presentations and the boards the kids made were pretty impressive. I think it's beyond what I ever thought middle school and elementary school kids could actually produce. And then I know that this Saturday, or not Saturday, tomorrow is, there's an art gallery event at Skyline College of some students from our school district as well as the high school district. So I want to encourage everyone to go there. It's from 5 to 7 at Skyline College at their art gallery.
Where is that kind of located since it's spread out?
Oh, okay. Just make a note on that. I wanted to also acknowledge the hard work of everybody and all the site reps and stuff who put on the STEM fair and helped those kids through it. I had a chance to see at least some of the presentations that the students, or the displays that the students had made, and I was happy to see quite a large number of genuine experiments. I'm the one who's always ranting about the distinction between experimentation and demonstration. I think we're making progress. Trying to remember when we had our last meeting, what things were since then, but I don't think I've spoken of that. Was it 2 weeks ago? Had the in-service day, which the Ms. McCulloch and the Curriculum Instruction Department put on, and I was honored to be allowed to attend that and to attend some sessions, and I have to say that was a fantastic day and a fantastic program, and everything I stuck my head into and participated in was well done, and people seem to be having a good time and engaged and stuff. So I want to congratulate you guys on pulling off a really great professional development day on that. And also, I'll throw another congratulation to Ms. Santos for the Ben Franklin Career Day. It was kind of cool. Those were only 2 days apart, so I went from one to another, seeing these really smoothly run, great programs, one for faculty, one for the students. It was inspiring. It really was to see all of that happening in our district. So, and that's all I wanted to say. Mr. Vidalis.
Yeah, just, again, Ms. Santos' spoken word embodies, I believe, the spirit that's present in many of our hearts, and she put it so beautifully into words. This coming Friday, many of our schools, I know for sure Fernando Rivera and Ben Franklin, and I'm not sure if any other schools, but we'll be they're not celebrating, but they are marking, I suppose, the No One Eats Alone at Lunch Day. It's a day that we set aside to highlight what I think is taught throughout the year around inclusive practices and making sure that everyone has a space and a place to belong, and that the leaders in the school need to take the initiative to sit next to somebody that might be sitting alone and invite them into social activities. And so that's happening this Friday. I think we may be having Channel 7 at Fernando Rivera around 11:30, sometime between 11:30 and 1 on that day. Several other news agencies have contacted us because they've seen a tweet about it. So they may be reporting on it as well. But I hesitate to say that it's just a one-day activity, but it's sort of a day that represents what we try to do every day. Let's just sort of name that day to be it, but I think it happens and should be happening every other day of the school year as well. That's it.
Thank you. Brings us general functions. We have, I believe, some modifications or corrections to be made to the consent agenda, Mr. Clementi?
Yes, thank you. So on the consent agenda, we had an error that needs some correction on item 13, section A, employment classified personnel. So there's a correction that needs to be made regarding the pay rate for substitute custodians. It's about the 6th through 8th point down there. You'll see sub custodian 1. The pay rate for the sub custodian 2 should be $19.75 an hour. It's written as $9.75 an hour on all three of those items. So we just need that adjusted for the record, please.
Okay. Yes, that is an important distinction.
Yes.
Okay. Then, could we have a motion to approve the consent agenda as modified?
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as amended.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? Okay. That was unanimous. I should have drawn circles on these things. Okay, so I believe this item E, resolution number 16-02-10, urging the use of People First language for students with disabilities. This resolution was approved by the San Mateo County Office of Education SELPA Board in fall of 2015, and they requested all local education administrations, all LEA boards to consider its adoption. The administration recommends adoption of Resolution 16-02-10, resolution urging the use of People First language for students with disabilities. Did you want to say anything with regard to that?
Yeah, I think that it is a symbolic and representational resolution, noting that we want to speak about our students as students first and not their disabilities first. Describing our students with special needs versus our special need students, etc. So it's something that the SELPA board has adopted at the county level, and different districts across the county are beginning to do this. It's a nationwide movement. I think bestows honor and dignity on individuals with special needs by acknowledging them first as people.
Anybody have any thoughts or discussion on that?
Nope.
I have to say that it certainly struck me, and particularly the line in there that we do not refer to a child who has cancer as a cancerous child. why would we refer to a child who has autism as an autistic child? And that definitely struck a note of some, making clear the logic. And yes, it's semantics, but if there's one thing I've learned in a lifetime of studying words, is that words really do matter. And the right word and how the words are used. So.
Here.
We've come a long ways as you look back years ago, some of the titles they had
Oh, yeah.
with disabilities is just very hurtful.
Yeah,
It's
with
good
the
that we're improving.
the child was even eliminated. It was just the whatever, So.
Yeah. So would somebody like to make a motion?
Yeah, I'd like to motion to approve the resolution number 1602-10, urging the use of people first language for students with disabilities.
I'll second the motion.
All right. That is a resolution. Could we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Ali,
Aye.
Miss Leah Inga Anawai,
Aye.
Mrs. Brizuela,
Aye.
Mr. Koo,
Aye.
Dr. Douglas.
Aye. Okay, thank you. Item F, TBWB Strategies Survey Development Update. We have, I hope, Jeremy Hauser from TBWB Strategies here to provide an update on survey development, whose results will be used to inform the board with information prior to authorizing a voter-approved local funding measure for Jefferson Elementary School District.
Yeah, so if you remember, several months ago, you provided direction that the district should begin pursuing this. So this is sort of a mid-road update, where we are now, what's going to accomplish, where we are to head next. And so Mr. Hauser is here to provide that update to us.
Thank you very much for having me, and I have to say, being here for the presentations early, it's very exciting to be working for a district and trying to tackle funding issues for a district when clearly you have some great academic programs and quality teachers. So with that in mind, we're going to be talking about preparing for a potential parcel tax to fund those academic programs and teachers. I think first it'd probably be good to give a little bit of background about TBWB. We are a strategy and communications consulting firm. We've been around for over 10 years, worked on over 200 public finance measures. We have 7 dedicated senior level staff and a very large support staff and in-house art and production department. All that's nice, but what's important is that we specialize in school funding measures, and we win about 9 out of 10. We've actually worked here in 2012 on Measure I, which was a $67.5 million bond measure, which passed resoundingly, and is something that you should be proud of for your community. Over our time, working on public funding measures, we've developed a strategy that we think is important when we're looking at a 2/3 approval measure, like we're looking at with a potential parcel tax. It's very different from a typical candidate effort. In a candidate race, I'm sure you've been watching a lot of the presidential debates. It's a much different rhetoric. It is head-to-head, us against them. When we have to get 2/3 approval, we can't afford to do that. It's really about uniting the community around a shared priority and value system. When one no vote cancels out 2 yes votes, it's really important that we build a measure that is something that can be supported by a broad coalition in the community. So with that in mind, we'd like to look at planning for a parcel tax measure as a 5-step approach. I think an important thing to note here with this graph is that the red area can be funded by you, the district. The green represents the independent advocacy campaign, and you cannot use any public funds or district resources to fund a campaign. Tonight, we're really going to be talking about step 1, the feasibility study, which has already been undertaken, but more broadly, the feasibility study tells us if a measure is feasible, what that measure would look like in terms of tax rate, programs, and it helps us gauge voter support in your community. Again, to pass these measures, we have to appeal to registered voters, and that's a much different type of person than a parent or someone that's closer to the schools. So that's the first step, what we'll be talking about tonight. After we've done a feasibility study and conducted a voter survey, we want to start building consensus around our proposal, doing outreach into the community, both internally to our internal stakeholders, teachers, parents, staff that really understand the day-to-day workings of the schools and understand what a potential funding measure would mean for them, but also into the broader community, to elected officials, faith group leaders, local business, people that might not be as tapped into the day-to-day of the schools, but are just as important and just as influential over the overall outcome. And then third, building a strong measure. We really want to align the priorities identified in the community survey with your needs as a district. And that can be a balancing act sometimes. But specifically with feasibility, which is the step of the process that we are in currently, I wanted to talk through that. And what this looks like is a voter survey. It's opinion research of likely voters for November of 2016. And what this allows us to do is simulate an election environment and understand a few different things about your electorate. First, we can test the types of programs that are important to your electorate and programs they would like to see supported with local funding. Second, we can look at election timing. Within our universe of voters, we can look at folks that vote in November of 2016, folks that might vote in May of 2017 or other election opportunities, and from there we can make a recommendation on when we think the ideal timing for a parcel tax selection would be. We can also test the tax rate, which is very important, and we can test different tax rate sensitivities so that we know we're putting together a proposal that is feasible in your community. And we can also test the political landscape. There was mention of Prop 30. We certainly will want to test the effect of that and how, knowing that Prop 30 will be on the ballot, how that affects voters' perceptions of the need for local funding. Again, competing issues and then any other potential controversies in the district. So why do we do a poll? The answer is that we don't want to leave anything to chance. We really want to have a very distinct understanding of your district, particularly as it relates to your needs, your funding needs, and your ability to pass a parcel tax measure. So what a poll allows us to do is get a representative sample of your community. We're not going to call everyone in your community, but we can target based on past voting habits. We can target a representative sample that we think will be likely to vote in November. We can gauge support for your overall needs. As a district, we can gauge various sensitivities to tax rates so that we can make sure we're putting together a proposal that meets your needs, but also is something that can be supported. We get good quantifiable data on voter issue positions, where they stand on issues related to your schools and some issues not related to your schools. And then again, the big takeaway here is the likelihood of success of a parcel tax. And in that, within that, we can also identify key components of a measure and key themes that we think will be important in public outreach to help us, again, build a strong measure that we think is viable for 2/3 support. So we have already begun this process, and so I wanted to outline a few of the steps we've already taken. First, back in October, we had a mailer to all registered voters and parents introducing the need for local funding, but also more broadly giving an update about your schools. Because again, your parents are much more tapped into the day-to-day operations of your schools than the average likely voter, and so we wanted to make sure that they could begin to be introduced to this measure. We also put together a fact sheet for your internal stakeholders, teachers, parents, again, introducing the need. What we're talking about tonight is the development of a voter survey. We've met with an independent working group to start looking at the nuts and bolts of this survey. This group includes teachers, parents, staff, community leaders. Board member Koo is a part of this committee. And it was really our way to hear from you what is important to your community and what kind of things should we be testing in this voter survey. Here's just, this is the mail piece that we put together that went to all registered voters in October. Again, features a nice picture on the cover, a letter from Superintendent Vidales, and some information about funding in your district. We also did this in Spanish, Arabic, and Mandarin to ensure that every section of your population had the opportunity to learn more about your schools. And again, this was back in October of 2015. And our next steps for finalizing the survey. So we have now met and learned from you and your community what we should be testing, what a potential parcel tax could fund, what you would like it to fund. And we've learned both positive and negative arguments that might come out in the course of a campaign. So our next steps in finalizing that survey are first, just at the end of this week and into next week, we are going to review that survey with that working group and finalize it. in the hopes that we can field the voter survey itself the week of February 20th. And then depending on these first two steps, because they are tentative, we are looking at a board presentation back to you guys with a detailed results breakdown with us and the pollster Brian Godby at either the March 23rd or April 13th meeting. And then this timeline kind of summarizes what I've already been talking about. The circle marked now is where we are. And we are in the process of building that feasibility study. And again, we're going to come back in front of you in that last March meeting, if not the first meeting in April, and present a recommendation on whether or not a parcel tax is feasible, and also a recommendation on what a parcel tax might fund programmatically and what messages might be compelling to voters in your community. From there, assuming we have a green light and a parcel tax is feasible, we're going to want to start building consensus around this measure. Again, like I said, both with your internal stakeholder community, with parents, teachers, staff, so they can understand what a parcel tax measure means for them and what it might fund, but also getting out in front of the issue to the greater public so that they understand why we're going to go to ask voters for this. And then the next most important step is building a strong measure. We want to build something that meets your needs as a district, but we also want to use what we find in the poll to inform that measure to ensure that we're building something that is viable. And then the big deadline for you is August 12th, which is your last day to qualify for the November 2016 ballot, to present a resolution to the county registrar. So that was a walkthrough of what we've done and what there is still to do. Are there any questions about this process?
So, did we already decide if we were going for a parcel tax or another bond?
No, we didn't. Well, we decided that we would not do a bond because I think we're already at our taxing capacity for that. As you mentioned, we're in the process of gathering information to determine whether or not we want to consider a local funding measure.
So I want to make clear, at this point, the only thing we decided was to research the possibilities and the feasibility of putting out for a parcel tax. Anybody else have a question?
Later on when I'm doing my presentation about attending the conference, I did get some of the legislation and case law. There's one in here about what we're doing, and it does say that effective January 1st, 2018, we won't be able to have a special election.
Yeah, I heard about that
So-
too.
So our opportunity is to do it 2016 or 2017, but we won't be able to do it 2018.
Well, presumably, say we wouldn't be able to have a special election, so if we did it, after that, if we do it, we do it.
In a general.
Regular
When
elections.
it's,
Yeah.
when it's an even year voting for president. They're gonna eventually put, we did that having a mail-in ballot, that was just to kind of pave the road, but this has already been passed, so there won't be special elections anymore. So I just wanted to say that might make a decision on what we feel, what we should be doing.
Have fewer opportunities
Right.
after that. Right. That's important information to know. Okay.
Thank you.
If there aren't any other questions on that, well, thank you for coming and bringing that. And
Thank you,
look
Mr.
forward to
Hauser.
Seeing more. Okay. Item G, resolution number 16-02-10A, urging legislature to extend personal beliefs exemption deadline and implementation of SB 277 to July 1, 2018. As at the request of a member of the public, the board will consider adopting resolution number 16-02-10A to urge legislature to enact legislation that will delay the implementation of SB 277 for 2 years. And I do have a number of speaker cards on this topic. Shall I start with you, Melinda, or end with you?
I can be the.
Lead us off, Melinda. You're on the top of my pile.
All right.
Good evening, Melinda Dart, AFT 3267. I'm speaking to say that I don't believe that that it's necessary to pass a resolution to extend this exemption. To me, the law's already been passed, and in the best interest of keeping our population safe at school and protecting everyone as best we can from from some very bad epidemics of the past that we don't want back. I remember when the polio vaccine was relatively new. I was a very small child, and I don't see any reason to hold this law back or go backwards. I think we need to think of the public safety of our community, and that this resolution would not serve any real purpose. The law's already been passed, so thank you.
Thank you. And I have a card for Sandy Lineberger.
Good evening. I'm Sandy Linebarger, one of the school nurses in the district. And as school nurses, we want to support student learning. We can accomplish this by implementing strategies that promote student and staff health and safety. The school nurse serves as a health professional for the school community, and among the nursing services are recommending health curricula and guidelines for district health policies. I'm here to support the new law, SB 277. It's the immunization law, which is eliminating personal and religious beliefs. January 1st, 2016, the law became effective, and July 1st, 2016, the law would be enforced in the schools. So there's about a 6-month window there for families to start getting their children immunized if they haven't done so already. The nurses will uphold the law. As Melinda had said, it is a law that just passed. If a child has a medical exemption signed by the doctor, that's acceptable. If a child has a personal or religious belief, it's exemption. If that's what their belief is, that's no longer acceptable. That's the change in the law. If a child is in school now and has a personal belief exemption already, that's grandfathered in. And it's grandfathered in until a gateway entry to school, which means K or TK or 7th grade. So for example, if there's a 2nd grader in school now and they have already on file a personal belief exemption, they are okay until they would be in 7th grade. And then that's when they'd have to get their shots, their immunizations. The law does exempt students who are on an independent studies program and if they are on a home-based private school. There's also another exemption for students with an IEP, individual education plan, because the state and the federal are saying 2 different things, and that can be viewed on a case-to-case basis. So, and we can consult with the county health officer to view a particular case to meet the requirements at any time. And the nurses will be working on a new board policy to align JESD's health policy with the new state law, vaccinating children against contagious diseases and keeping our community safe and healthy from contagious diseases. Thank you.
Thank you. Ann. We have our other school nurse.
Can I talk?
Yes, you've been invited to talk. You have to stand down there, but
I want to
yeah.
hand these out. I'm sorry, I only have 5 of them. I wasn't thinking. My name is Ann DeJarnett. I am a credentialed school nurse, as is Sandy Linebarger, my colleague. Our goal as school nurses are to keep our children healthy and well in school, because healthy children learn better. I am very much for this measure, SB 277. I think it was debated long and hard, and it was triggered by the measles vaccine, or pardon me, the measles epidemic that started in Disneyland. And it was kind of overdue because a lot of other states haven't had this exemption for a while. I have a personal investment in this. When I was a new nurse working at Stanford Hospital, I took care of a young woman who had hepatitis B. She died in 54 hours. Died. This was a healthy, pretty healthy woman when she came in. This is vaccine preventable. This is criminal not to prevent disease if you can. Vaccines are safe. I know that some people think they cause bad things to happen, that children can have, and actually some adults can have bad reactions to vaccines. Typically, that can be handled pretty well without too much problem. And I would not criticize somebody who is concerned that their child was going to have a reaction, but I don't think that's any reason to not vaccinate. And that's essentially all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any discussion on this item?
Well, thanks for the work that you're doing in our schools. I think that's one of the sad things about public education is the depletion of librarians and nurses in our schools, right? And I'm glad that you're here to give us the official, opinion from the health community. And yeah, I think that I don't think that I want to. Actually, I actually had a question for Mr. Vidales. Is the member of the public, are they here or?
I don't believe so, and I don't believe they live in our school district.
All right. Thanks. I had a feeling.
I had a question. How much is our district impacted by the implementation of this? And do we have a lot of students that are exempt?
I believe last year I asked Nurse Linebarger this question when this was being debated at the Capitol throughout the whole spring. I believe she told me that it was 2, maybe?
Correct. And this year we did that again. We kind of did a survey and asked our clerks to get that information for you, and I think there's 2.
2.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Well, I was in school, junior high, when they had all the children line up to take the little sugar cube.
Polio.
And that's how they gave it to us. And it was free. We didn't have to pay for it. All the kids lined up. I really don't know, because I probably didn't realize that you could say no. When someone said, do something, kids and parents listen to. I guess we better do that. But what struck me that time was that one of our teachers got polio. He was an iron lung, and one of our students also. So we had a wishing well, and every day we put coins in there, every day, to go towards their recovery if there could be. And I don't think there was recovery in those days. So had we not taken that vaccine, I guess they call it vaccine, but they told us it was a sugar cube. I guess that was to make the kids want to take it, I don't know. But it could have spread to many other children. And so, like Melinda said, if it's a law, they're asking us to go against it. I don't think it was passed without a lot of thought. It wasn't like it just out of the blue sky they decided to make a law. And I do believe that this is for the betterment of all children, parents, and especially teachers. Because you guys are exposed, I'm sure most of you get the common cold a lot because you're dealing with the children. And I think we need to keep everybody safe. And on that one little space of letting some of them kind of get away with it, but very few.
Yeah.
So I have no problem with just, well, I don't think we have to say anything except just ignore it, right? Right. And just say we're not gonna, or
Yeah,
just say we don't want to pass it,
Yep.
if that's what we want.
Yeah, Dr. Douglas could call for a motion, and if there is no motion, it dies.
So did you want to say anything, Mr. Coop? No, and I do want to say that I do not in the least support this resolution. I completely support the vaccination law, and I think that people have had a lot of advance warning to be prepared for this, and the science is completely behind the vaccines. So I will ask if anybody wants to make a motion on this, and
I'd like to make a motion, and I do think that there's ample time until it goes into effect, that if anybody has issues about, they have that window. I did want to comment on what I have seen as a trend, is that it does state in the law that when you are getting your medical exemption, that it has to be by an MD. And what I have seen, because I'm a health manager for Head Start here in San Mateo County, is we've had nurses sign it, and I've had to send it back and say this is not valid. So I have seen that trend, but I fully support the law. I want to make sure that everyone is safe in our district and in our community. So I motion to approve the resolution.
no, actually, I would say,
not
if
to-
we don't
not-
want to approve it, we
don't
simply
need to,
don't
right?
make a motion. If
Okay,
we
then
let
we
it
don't
just
have to.
die.
We don't need to make a
Nope, we
motion.
don't need to do anything. Yeah. So if nobody wants to make a motion, then that
Safety
one
first.
dies.
Yeah.
Okay, so that resolution dies for
For
lack of a motion.
Lack of a motion.
It's stated that way.
Yes. Yeah, there's a movement across the state to try to revive this and bring it back up. As I mentioned, it was quite vigorous debate that happened at the state legislature. I happened to be there for other issues, and there was anybody that cared about this knows about this. So, and it was modified to appease some of the concerns. So.
And I will have to add one other thing. Even though I said that it's for the safety of the teachers and the students and all that, we go into the schools, us here, so safety for everybody, right?
All my vaccines.
Yeah, and I believe the levels of non-vaccination were getting dangerously low, so that what's called the herd immunity was not being present. Some communities, very few students were being immunized, and that's where the measles outbreak took hold. Whole schools were impacted. So.
Yeah. Okay. So section 10, curriculum and instruction. Item C, the trip to Washington, D.C. for TR Policita students. We have 19 students accompanied by Mr. Monty File, Mr. Christopher Praxides, and Ms. Renee Tanaka, teachers at TR Policita, will be going on a voluntary trip to Washington, D.C. This trip is through World Strides. The administration recommends approval of TR Policita school trip to Washington, D.C., beginning on March 26, 2016, and returning March 30th, 2016. If I'm not mistaken, that's during spring break.
I had a question on that. This is the same trip that they went to before that we approved, right?
Yes, they've been on this trip probably 5 years now.
Yeah.
So why do they call it volunteer?
It's voluntary because it's not a required field trip as part of the curriculum. It's just an experience. It's a voluntary experience, yeah. I think it's important that we specify that, because if it is required, then the district should pay for it. Also,
okay.
it's voluntary, and it's an extra thing that teachers are organizing. We're not forcing teachers to go. We're not forcing students to go. It's something that happens during their vacation time.
But I know we did it before, but I didn't remember that word voluntary. So.
So how is the money raised?
I don't know specifically, but they, Mr. Valenti can maybe speak as to what they've done in the past. They've done dinners. They do support letters to family members and friends who help support them.
So each individual is responsible for raising their own money?
So they do, the ultimate cost goes to the family, but what they do is they distribute whatever fundraisers they do as a group. That goes across the board, and that brings everybody else's costs down. I'm not sure the overall cost altogether, but this 19 kids.
That's a lot of students
That's the
at the
largest
most,
group
yeah.
since it started a real small group. And on occasion, family members will go with their child as well, so that may increase the number of folks there. But it's been a great experience.
Yeah, I think I remember the first year we approved it, I think there were 5 students. Yeah.
Could you guys go into a little bit about like, what they do on this trip, just as a new member?
Yeah, so it varies year by year, but they do visit some of the major monuments, the Smithsonian Museum. I believe they try to visit a couple of hearings if there are any happening at the time. Sometimes there's a trip outside in Virginia to where the town that William and Mary College is in. I forget what it is, but Williamsburg, yeah. They can visit that, and so they have living history experiences there.
They've gone to Philadelphia before. They've got a battlefields around the area, Gettysburg. So, and again, a big part of it's going to the Smithsonian, which I'm sure is a vacation in itself.
And seeing the Capitol and how our government works.
And they'll come back and present, so
Yeah.
there will be a presentation.
Great.
This is just approval for them to go.
And the great thing about this tour company, too, they keep them busy from the minute they get up to the minute they go back in. So it's really,
11
yeah.
Wow.
No room to get into trouble.
They do find us.
I heard that, yeah. Yeah.
And we have 3 adults.
Yes. Okay, so are there any other questions? Call for a motion?
I'll make a motion, we approve the trip to Washington DC, but see our policy to students. And, according to,
I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, and we have now a Technology and Curriculum Integration Program update. Tony Barone, Director of, if I put my glasses on, I could actually read it. Technology and Curriculum Integration will provide updates on the Technology Department's progress and successes on implementing recommendations made by the Common Core Implementation Advisory Committee in February 2014, pardon me. In addition, current and future program enhancements for our teachers and students will be shared. And these are the people I've already been hearing great things about.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to have me come speak tonight. As you recall, I was here about a year ago talking about our plans, and so now I want to give you an update on what we have done and then talk about what our plans are moving forward from here. So we talked about when we explore professional learning, thinking about how technology can be used to teach and learn in new ways. You know, what can it bring to the curriculum? So we're looking at things in different ways than we've done in the past with the goal of hopefully deeper, more meaningful learning for students. So a few things we looked at were how we can restructure institute days so we can allow for differentiation so teachers can choose sessions at their levels. We also talked about, from the implementation plan, how to have supported cohorts where teachers can commit to a series of professional development opportunities, and then they are supported by integration specialists after that opportunity. And then also, what would that one-on-one support look like at the classroom level? So some of the things we did this year, as we already mentioned, we had 2 institute days that were conference style, where we were able to provide different technology sessions that supported the curriculum, but also supported teachers' levels with where they were, so they had an opportunity to choose those sessions. One of the items we introduced this year was both a Chromebook and an iPad educator series, and this was optional and voluntary for teachers. And teachers had to commit to 12 hours of professional development, and this happened either during 2 days of release days, or we also offered an option after school. We had a tremendous number of teachers respond. We had a wait list and are offering another round this spring in order to accommodate the teachers on the wait list. As I noted here, we had over 110 teachers sign up for these sessions, so we were really pleased with that result. We also spent a lot of time collaborating with the ELA, ELD, and math departments on how to make that more cohesive for teachers. We're trying to work toward not having technology trainings and math training where it's all cohesive and it's all presented in a unified way, because that's really what it looks like in the classroom. Specifically, we partnered with ELA as they launched their writing workshop program this year, and we looked at how technology can support the writing workshop model in the classroom, as well as problems of the month in math. And then finally, we provide site-based teacher support as they need it, whether it's an individual, small group, department, or grade level teams. Next, I'd like to look at student access, just an idea of what we currently have available and the direction that we'd like to move in. I was pleasantly surprised this week as we pulled all the numbers out of our database, and this is a combination of both district contributions to the school sites as well as the S&C funds that were used to purchase technology at the school sites. At our elementary school, we have a ratio now of a 1.9 to 1 computer to student ratio, which is, I think, pretty incredible considering 18 months ago, I think we had about 100 Chromebooks in our schools. So to go from that in a 2-year time, I think is just really impressive and just shows the commitment, you know, not only from the district, but all of the school sites who are approving funds to continue to have technology in the school sites. That's comprised of both iPads in the primary grades as well as Chromebooks in the upper grades. At our middle schools, we are currently at a 2.5 to 1 student ratio, and that I just included the Chromebooks in the classroom. So we also have labs available where electives are taught, but I really wanted to focus on what was available in the classroom. I know there is a desire to lessen that ratio, and so what I'd like to talk about next is a partnership that we have just joined called the School to Home Partnership. And Bernie was approached a few months ago, July or August, by Ann Campbell, our county superintendent, who wanted to see if we had an interest in pursuing a one-to-one program and to partnering with the County Office of Education as well as the California Emerging Technology Fund in supporting a school-to-home project. We felt like we were already sort of on the path to getting there and are appreciative of this partnership because they have launched school-to-home programs all over the state in many low-income and diverse school districts, and so they have been already a tremendous support for us as we launch this program. Who's involved and what will this look like? As you look at the 3-year implementation plan, our goal is to start next year with all of our middle school 6th grade students, with the following year continuing with the new group of 6th grade middle school students, as well as adding all the new 7th grade students who would have been in an elementary 6th grade. And then by the year 2018-19, we would have a full one-to-one program at all of our middle schools. One of the reasons we were excited about the partnership is that they bring years of research, and on this slide it actually shows the 10 core components that are involved with the program. We all recognize it's not just about writing a purchase order and having a lot of Chromebooks come to the school, that there are many factors involved with this, a key factor being, you know, planning and assessment, which is the process we're in right now. The second is a required learning academy where they pull educators from all of the participating districts together once a year to share best practices and to continue to learn. Myself and all the middle school principals will be going at the end of the month to join all these principals who've been doing this work for several years. So we're excited to do that early on so we can learn from their lessons before we dive any further into this. A big piece to this is parent engagement and education. They provide a curriculum. One of the big things CETF provides is political connections that we can hopefully provide more wireless access, both at the citywide level, seeing what we can do in terms of internet service providers to ensure that families have that access at home. So if we're sending the technology home, we also can provide the internet access as well. And then you can just see all of the different aspects that are involved with the program. Obviously a huge professional development piece for the teachers as well. We're looking at promoting a blended learning model where some of it will be face-to-face, some of it will be teachers producing a product for their professional learning, and even doing some via video. So I'll give you more details as we get further into that, but just was excited to share that that is in the works for the near future. Next, I'd like to talk about our web presence and building our community engagement. So we launched our Facebook page a little less than a year ago. We are currently at 650 likes and growing week by week. We actually sent another flyer home in today's Wednesday envelope, hoping to continue to build that presence with our community and having more people join our page. We worked very hard with Ford and Benia in order to develop content, so we have much more content now than we did in the beginning, and really trying to keep it an active place where people want to come and check out the site, and promoting the good things happening in our school, as well as other district initiatives as well. And really, I think a big piece of this is we're building that community. You know, I know many of you are active on there, and you see some people really engage with the posts that are there, and so it's building its own online community presence there. Another big piece this spring is we are going to look at revamping our district and school websites. Not just aesthetically, what we're finding is, you know, the tool doesn't support a lot of what we want to do. You know, we can't embed a Google form in our sites, and we can't put our Facebook feed there, you know, so we want a tool that's really going to allow us to grow and have all of our different tools intersect. So we're going to explore those options this spring and hopefully launch a new site for the district as well as the school sites by January 2017. Next, I'd like to share some LCAP data. I know as Sandy has shared the LCAP report last year, and I'm sure this year as well. Under our student learning goal, we do talk about increasing the level of access students have to technology and how that's being used. So I wanted to share what that data looked like. In October, we administered a technology survey to all of our teachers and all of our students in grades 3 through 8. And this will be one of the metrics we're going to use for the LCAP. And what the metric is really calling for is how students are using technology on a daily basis. So we wanted a baseline, which we have in October, and then we're looking to grow that baseline by 50% when we re-administer in the spring. There were very clear areas for opportunity that emerged from the survey, and so I just wanted to share a few highlights of what we found. From the teacher survey, predominantly what the teachers report their students using technology for is word processing, researching online, and as a reward for early finishing. That was the current state in the beginning of the year. They rarely have their students take notes, quizzes, tests, spreadsheets, presentations, collecting and analyzing data, and submitting work. So this was a great launch pad for us because this really informed our work of the work that we do with teachers and really broadening how technology is used in the classroom. Yes.
Are the teachers thinking about moving towards doing more of those things on the right, or?
So, and that's the work that we've done with our professional learning, is just expanding the notion of what teachers had done. You know, whereas before it was typically just, let's word process an assignment that you're doing, and now we have technology being used in a variety of ways throughout the learning process, and not just as a, when you're done, let's type your paper up. So really the whole goal was, let's just broaden how it's used and the way in which it's used. An interesting finding, we talked about cyberbullying, and again, this is from the teacher survey. 14% of our teachers are aware that cyberbullying is happening, and 35% don't feel like they're able to handle that because it's new, we haven't done a lot of PD around it. This has also become a big focus for our professional learning, is how do we deal with digital citizenship? You know, how do we train our teachers? What are we doing with our students? We'd love to launch a digital citizenship week next year where we can make a big focus about it and bring in a panel and just really put a focus on it as we're using all this technology. We want to be sure that students are using it safely and responsibly, and that teachers know how to handle these issues when they do arise. Key findings from the student survey. We found predominantly technology is used most often in language arts. I found interesting finding was 70% of students report being more involved in class when technology is used, and that they tend to spend more time revising their work if they're using technology to do it. This actually went hand in hand with the work we did with Writing Workshop and how they use technology through that whole writing process. And interesting, which correlated with the teacher survey, over 80% of students report never using technology for spreadsheets, slideshows, or movies. So again, we've been trying to just expand what the technology is being used for. Looping back to our school-to-home survey, our school-to-home project, I also asked some questions about what their computer use was like at home. We will do a more definitive survey closer to actually identify which families do not have internet access and how we can support them. But just from this survey, we learned that nearly 80% of kids use the internet when they're at home, use a computer at home, sorry. 92% report that they do have internet at home, and 71% that they do have Wi-Fi. And I actually felt like that was higher than I expected.
So,
But-
on that, if you can clarify, so the blue is yes,
Yes.
the red is no, what is the orange?
I don't know.
So that's when the students say, I
I
don't know
don't
if
know.
I have
I have no
Wi-Fi."
idea if it's
Okay.
Wi-Fi or not.
Literally.
I get online and I don't know how. I just get online. Yes.
They should know if they don't have a computer.
Hmm?
You would think they would know if they don't have a computer, but.
Correct.
They may
Again.
not be sure how to define computer, though. If you have one of these at home, do you have a computer
Well, the
at
question
home?
actually said, is it a laptop, a Chromebook, a desktop? But again, we started with third graders. They may not differentiate between a laptop and an iPad. To them, it might all be the same. So.
Exactly.
Again, when we really launch our school to home, we will do a definitive survey to identify exactly which families need internet support so that we can support them through that process.
think
This was just to give us a kind of a general idea of.
One of the things that we do have to explore more is Wi-Fi versus a data plan on a phone or a device.
Yes.
Right.
And because the school to home will require a Wi-Fi access and not necessarily being able to get online through a phone or through a
Right.
tablet with data plan.
Yeah.
You had mentioned that you support the students that don't have internet at home. How do you?
We would
do that?
like to.
We would like to, and
You
that's
would like
part of our
to.
planning for school to home.
The like, so yeah.
Well, it's the we would like to, and
Yeah, no, absolutely. I was like,
you know,
wow, I gotta
Bernie and
hear
I
this.
are like thinking that we won't send devices home unless we know children can get online. So we're sort of thinking at it as a holistic project, and everything we need to make this happen, we're definitely including that as part of the cost of making this happen. So again, this was more just let's get an idea of kind of what's out there, just as a starting point.
Thank you.
Yeah. And finally, I know you've probably heard about it, new legislation as of January 1st is SB 1177, so PIPA, as we like to say around the office, because it's a fun name. Brent loves it. It works alongside with FERPA, but it really brings FERPA to the digital age. FERPA was written during a time when all data was collected paper and pencil and put in a cume folder and very rarely left the building. And now in this digital age where we store personally identifiable information electronically, we're always being asked to, send data to different places. So this legislation actually is not our responsibility. The responsibility is on the vendor, that their contracts and user agreements need to be compliant with this. What our responsibility is that we ensure that we don't sign anything unless they are following these guidelines. So we may need to have some board policy around this, so I may be coming back to that as we need to update. We're still in the process of reviewing that. I just wanted to put it in your ticker that it's here and we're looking into it. And that brings me to the end of the presentation, if you have any questions.
So what is being done to encourage the other teachers in other subjects besides language arts to utilize more technology?
Yeah, so that was our big push this year. We partnered with ELA. We basically spent, 3/4 to 1/4 of the day, fourth of the day. ELA had 3/4 of the day. We had the afternoon. And that was a starting place. This spring we have started with math, so it's just something that we're growing in. But we just wanted a launch point, and so launch point was ELA this year.
All right, thanks.
I had to laugh when it said there about the students reporting that they spend more time
Yeah.
revising their work when there's technology.
Yes.
When I talked to the students at Ben Franklin about being a writer, one of the things I told them straight up front was that, when I started college, we did not have word processors.
Yeah.
And had they not been invented, I would not have finished my PhD and dissertation, and I
Right.
would not be a writer, because
Right.
revising, when you have to retype the manuscript all over every time, forget about it.
Right.
That's a huge one for learning that you can infinitely improve.
Right.
I mean, to some point, they just have to rip it out of your hands.
Right, exactly. But what we're finding is, in the past, kids were used to writing with their hand and then just typing. And so now, like with SBAC, they're forced to compose and type at the same time. So it's really a different skill. The kids have to learn that they are composing directly onto the device as opposed to writing and then typing. So
And it's an interesting thing to look at and watch the research as years go on, because I will say for myself that there are different processes, and I do write both ways, because sometimes it makes my brain work differently.
Yes. Yeah,
So,
definitely.
moving all the testing into one direction on that could have interesting side effects, I'm
Yeah.
not sure.
Definitely. Any other questions?
I just want to mention, though, that I'm happy that Ann Campbell approached Mr. Vidales about this extra funding, because that is one of our board goals, is that we get to this 1-to-1 ratio. And I know Mr. Vidales has spoken before about doing it in over a 3 or 4 year period, but now I see the actual way that it will happen. Is there an amount of money? I mean, what does the support look like?
It is not funding directly from this organization. It is it is the support, the back end support, the research, the recommendations, and don't get me wrong, but along with everybody else, like, well, why can't we just do it all in 1 year? Why can't they all? They've learned, especially from a district in Southern California, that tried to go all 1-to-1 K-12 in 1 week, exactly what can happen. So the measured approach that they highly recommend, and it goes against many of our desires and principles, to go one grade at a time and grow the program in that way has been the most successful. And even though we think we can do it differently, they highly, that's the expertise that they bring to the whole process. That, and then the parent education components and what they've learned through that. So it's mostly a knowledge base. I am working with Superintendent Ann Campbell to explore different ways of bringing wireless access into the home for families who do not have it. The California Emerging Technology Fund has contacts with these cable vendors and things like that to get them to bring their prices lower for a good amount of data. Dr. Campbell and I will be approaching philanthropists and foundations to see, for families who that still is an obstacle, determining if there's personal wireless hotspots, so to speak, that they can use to complete school assignments on. It won't be available for entertainment necessarily, but if there's a school assignment that requires them to be online at home, that they should have a school. The school should be able to provide that wireless access for that school assignment. And so it's just determining what that could look like. It's not that many students, and many students don't have the access just because they don't know that they could have it, or they live in apartments or something like that where they're not wired for cable or anything like that. So we just need to figure out exactly who that population is and how much data we think a school assignment will occupy over a course of a month.
Great.
Are there by chance any school districts in our county that is part of the program already?
We were approached along with the Bayshore School District, so both of us would be the first ones in San Mateo County.
Yeah.
There are school districts in Alameda County that participate in this at some of their schools, but I think, Bayshore's small, but our district would be the first sizable district that would go 1-to-1 district-wide.
All right.
It's good news.
Anybody else have any questions or comments?
The Wi-Fi for the personal homes, and that is, I'm hearing from folks talking about it, that if you have Wi-Fi in your house, people around you can access your stuff on your computer.
Those are usually, they're password protected.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so they would be password protected, and you need to insert a password in order to access that network.
It's doing homework that I don't care.
Yeah.
Somebody else they do.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
care. So I just
Yeah,
want to know.
no, it would be a secure connection.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was the last big one. Stick with 2
And that does bring us to item 14, which is our board study session, the 2015 CSBA conference. Board member Marie Brizuela will highlight some of her learnings and give a report about her attendance at the California School Board Association 2015 Annual Education Conference and Trade Show in San Diego, December 2 to 5, 2015.
I don't have to do fast, I only have 10 minutes. Okay, I thought it was a great conference overall, it was really good. And I'm just gonna briefly go through some of these things, because I can't go into depth like I usually like to do, but, you all go home and fall asleep. Anyway, I referred to this one, that went through this session on, for, learning about legislation, and also learning about some of the laws that are being passed. So it was amazing, because as, you know, I was getting ready for this, I noticed that half the items are on our agenda, you know. But there is one that I want to just point out to you, it's, and I'll have Maria, I couldn't make all these copies for you guys, but some of these, we can pass them around, you can borrow or something, but a conflict of interest, legislation that was passed, and it says that private consultants under contract with school districts are subject to the same prohibitions on conflict of interest as school district employees and officials. So we need to check that out. It's something you can look at this, Bernie, make sure that, because we do have consultants from time to time, and make sure that they are also adhere to the conflict of interest. And I'm going to go fast, so I kind of folded them over. And the other one was, what we already voted, whatever we didn't vote on, vaccination thing. That was there. So that meant everybody at CSB that went to the conference, that attended this part of it, was aware of all these things. So, and the other one is authorizing a pilot program to report child abuse. And it's more in depth than what it was before, so that's something I think we ought to be looking at and make sure that we're up to par on that, which I think we are. Considering our district, way back, I think in the 70s, had one of the worst child abuse cases that the young man actually wrote a book on. And it was at a time when teachers were not allowed to say that they thought it was abuse, and 3 very dedicated teachers stood up and did it anyway, and reported and saved up that young man's life. So I'm always interested in that type of thing. So that's one thing down faster. Then we had this one that was about the Brown Act. As you know, I'm always referring to the Brown Act. So it says here, an issue pending before the state Supreme Court is whether communication by public officials and public employees detained only on private personal electronic devices and private accounts are subject to disclosure under the Public Records Act. Until this legal issue is resolved, you should be aware that voicemails, emails, or text messages sent or received on your private personal electronic devices may be subject to the Public Records Act. Also, the case pending before the Supreme Court involves truly private devices for which the public officials did not receive reimbursement from public funds. So that's kind of in depth, but the other thing also that they discussed was the danger of using your personal stuff for everything, because once something is investigated, now they know what you have for breakfast and kid is mad at you and all that stuff. So it's important. So today I got an email. Thank you, Maria. I was like, yesterday. I have a school, because I always use mine, and then when I think about it, I should have everything together. So I'm going to be following what I learned at the conference. So it pays to go to the conference. And then it said, there's another thing on the Brown Act stuff. To help clarify that you are not speaking officially, that's the end of what I said, on behalf of the district. District websites should not include links to your personal social media accounts, and your personal social media accounts should not include links to district and individual school websites. And the most important thing of that was that we should not be speaking that may sound like we're talking on behalf of the district. You should reveal your elected official status on all social media platforms you use, and include a clearly visible statement that any opinions you post are your own and not those of the district. Because we carry our title of school board member wherever we go, even to the market or anything. And if we don't say it's my opinion only, then it's assumed that it's the district's opinion. Avoid sharing non-public information related to students, district personnel claims, and lawsuits against the district, and other sensitive, non-public, or confidential information. I think we pretty well adhere to that here. In other words, comply with the privacy and confidentiality provisions of the Brown Act. To avoid potential Brown Act violations, do not engage in online conversations with other board members by posting comments on other board members' blogs, Facebook posts, or similar social media communications, or even liking posts that address any issue of school district concern, current school district initiatives, or issues within the school board's jurisdiction. And they gave us some examples, and a good example would be what we voted or did vote on tonight, of how we feel about something. We should be putting it out on a blog, or even responding to someone who had an opinion like that. Okay, to avoid mistakes and creating unforeseen liability issues, you should not post official information about the district or district business on your personal social media sites. Remember that using your private personal technology to communicate about official district business can create issues of a request for data. If a request of data is made, or a hard drive or mobile device is subpoenaed in connection with a lawsuit, meaning they can take your personal stuff if there's a lawsuit. Also, remember that litigation discovery rules are not the same as Public Records Act rules. During discovery and litigation, the district may be required to recover email from the trash or backup tapes. But they really made a big emphasis on this to us, because apparently it must be happening in some areas. So, just something that we should be more aware of. Right, I over my 10 minutes.
Not quite.
Oh, not sure. Okay. Then we got this. I got this thing. What's going on in for the federal government in D.C. It says that they're talking about that was the ESA reauthorization. I think we probably would have got Bernie, and I just wanted to bring it to light that they discuss all this with us, and I can give you these papers. It's easy to read and understand, so I don't waste my 2 seconds left. Okay. Am I over? No. Okay. Then another one that I attended was building a strong and effective governance team from a superintendent's perspective. And it was really, he did it in a very humorous, wonderful way. And it was really nice. Many of the diagrams here are what we did recently when we had our governance team, so it was really nice. And I'm going to leave the last one for that has to do with that too. Then another one talked about the resolution. That there's a joint resolution in Dublin with the Dublin schools and the Dublin City Council to promote issues about restoring, Linda, you'll like this one, restoring public education spending, restore the original funding that we had many moons ago. So I wanted to share that with you as well. And this one, and then these are, I'm not going to talk about them because there's way too much in here, but it's great evaluations begin at the top, meaning the superintendent, which is great. And then that way it goes all the way down to the bottom. And then the board members and immunities, protections, and avoidance conflicts. Very good one also. And then this one I really took a lot back in that. So maybe some of this can be presented to the public at another time, but it's about religion in public schools and what every board member needs to know. And in essence, several years ago, we had a complaint from a parent or a couple of parents saying that we should no longer sing Christmas carols at Christmas time because it's we're ignoring the other religions that do not believe in Christian faith. But what they're saying here, what they told us when we went to the session was, you can have that as long as you include everything. You can have songs for the Jewish family, song for, and any other, whatever they believe in. If you make it well-rounded, and you can also talk about religion as long as you're not influence it or showing how it works. But it's okay for children to learn about other religions. I was in high school, I took world history. 6 weeks of that was learning all the different religions. And in San Francisco, you know, there's so many. And we actually went on a field trip and visited a site for everyone. And it was really enlightening and as education only, not to convince someone to join their group. And then the other one is everything you should know about Title IX. And it's a pretty great one too, so we can do it. And the one that I enjoyed a lot too was the board and community partners collaboration and how we can engage the community to be a part of us, and that goes along with community schools and all that. Talk about class. And this one is fun. This is the fun one I left for last. And it's and the person that put this paper together, his name is it's Davis Campbell, and he's retired executive director of California School Board Association. And when I was a delegate assembly member for about 12 to 14 years, he was always there when I was there. He's an amazing man who really still in his retirement promotes this. So what they started, California School Board Associations at first started only having school board members come, very small, going to Sacramento or Santa Rosa or someplace. And then they realized that why are we teaching school board members how to be school board members if we don't include superintendents? Because we're supposed to be a governance team together. So now they do. So this is not against you, Bernie. This is a fun one. So anyway, he put this together kind of as a comical way to talk to superintendents. Now they're passing out to us. So it says superintendents, top 10 fatal errors. Lessons learned. Oh, they're like hurts. No, I mean, you should have heard the laughter in that room. Okay, number 1. The superintendent's not respecting the role of the board in the structure. And one of the reasons is the superintendent's the head of the whole organization, and he's got to look at 5 people that are, you know, maybe not listening to him. So it says, but they have to respect it. And it's not you. It's not you.
You've got James.
And it says, because the board can see it in their eyes or hear it in their voice. And this was all comically done. Then not respecting individual board members because of their lack of professional education, standing in the community, or having a low salary. So, in other words, they're thinking that school board members sometimes maybe don't have a high school diploma, and why should they be directing a person with a PhD? And, you know, there are some areas, rural areas, that happens. Okay. And then saying being a victim. People who act like a victim become one. Then drawing too many lines in the sand, it just means know when to hold them and know when to fold them. Bernie, did you take this lesson?
Rogers told us that one.
And then the thing that they say a lot of superintendents use with their board members is adopting a trust me mentality, and then finding out later, whoops, no. So what they're saying is, don't ask boards to give up their only real power to ask questions and to believe that they might be holding the superintendent accountable. So, in other words, it's working together. It's actually what it is. Confusing disagreement with disloyalty or lack of confidence. They may just simply disagree. Then it says, approaching the board with a damage control mentality. And so it means a superintendent that might act paranoid, and trying to control the board. The next one is expecting to. That's why I say, please, it's not about you. Okay. Expecting too much or too little. Finding the right balance for your board. And so they're explaining that boards have different cultures, individual cultures, and how the board itself knows how to work out a perfect balance, and it does happen. Then playing favorites it's not possible for a superintendent not to have special board members that they like better than others, but it is possible to keep those feelings to yourself and treat each board member the same in public. Then number 10, the last one, not moving quickly to resolve issues. Sometimes it seems easier just to let things go and not to confront or address problems, but it's better that you talk about it and you get things done. So this is used with the permission of Davis Campbell, and I'll tell you, he really had a great way of expressing it and had us all laughing. Anyway, I could say no. But anyway, I had to share it because it was kind of a one session for some people that needed to hear it, and for others, they said, hey, it's okay, it doesn't apply. So, anyway.
Yeah, thank you. And for each, well, just a couple minutes. Just for each one of those that you read, I was glad to say that that's not me. And I was also sad to say that I know someone who is that. So, so anyway, I'm glad it's not us, but I do know that it is far too often common. You know, the top 10 things is top 10 because they happen more often than we want them to happen. So.
Yeah. But anyway, it was a great conference, and I think a lot of this really came down to a lot. So I'm going to have Maria make some of these available to you guys, so you can look at this. Really, truly, some of these are really good.
Thank you.
And that means I didn't have a chance to play at the conference.
Oh.
It's too much work. Okay.
That's it? All right, then we're down here at the bottom of our agenda with the board member comments, reports, and reflections on the board meeting guidelines. Mr. Ali.
I'm not sure if I reported, but I attended a breakfast with Lieutenant Governor Gavin Newsom a couple weeks ago for the Safety for All Act. So just, I will be forwarding a sample resolution to Mr. Vidal so that, maybe we can consider adopting a resolution on that. And I once again focused on, we will stay focused on our goals and avoid getting sidetracked. We will keep our focus on the best interests of our students. That's what we're here for. And thanks everyone for coming out tonight.
I chose, we will communicate openly, honestly, and respectfully with each other, and I'm glad to say that that is what we're doing.
Mine was, we will strive to support our district message of showing up by attending meetings, arriving and starting on time, and ending on time. And I think we're doing that, and I'm pleased to say that we have a full board that has that commitment. Although I wasn't sure I was going to be here on time, we had to get all this paper together.
I selected, we will listen actively to ideas, we will listen openly without preparing responses. I thought everyone was just open about their opinions and good conversations.
Well, then, actually, I have to laugh. That was the one that I had also, selected, so I agreed, which makes it short and sweet. And I don't have anything further to report, I don't think. So we are going to close our meeting tonight in honor of 3 members of our community. Carol L. Klatt, who is a retired council member from Daly City Council. Marianne O'Reilly, a teacher at Daniel Webster Elementary School. George Washington. I was looking at that going, that didn't seem right. Okay, at George Washington. And Engelberto Fabian Abellano III, son of Engelberto Abellano, campus safety assistant at Benjamin Franklin Middle School. So if we could just have a moment of silence for these members of our community.
Can I say something?
You wish to say something before we adjourn?
Yeah.
Have a request. Ms. Brisbane would like to say something.
I just want to say, I'm sorry, I brought it, I thought I brought it, but I guess I left it at home. We get that magazine from, it's that organization for the teachers belong to, or the principals belong to it. Yeah. Okay, anyway, and it had a beautiful article on a picture, and he's not here. Mr. Parrish was in it, and they were talking about his programs over at the school there. And unfortunately...
Don't say it.
I have to. I was going to ask if you could probably...
I know, I've said it a lot of times.
Let someone know about it.
I did.
It said San Francisco principal. It said that correct school, but, and here we are, the time that we can have, something that wow, our district got something, and they put San Francisco. But anyway, but it was a
The first
great
time I
article.
saw it, it said a South San Francisco school. And the second time, it's just the San Francisco school, so somehow they missed the middle there.
I think that's typical, isn't it?
Well, anyway, I thought maybe they run it again, maybe, and have it say Daly City.
I will,
Maybe they can at least
I
run a
will try
correction.
again.
A
And Mr.
correction.
Parrish has also communicated as well.
Okay, thank you. I just didn't want to forget that.
Don't want to forget
Then
to
I
be
will
forgotten.
adjourn the meeting here at 9:06 PM.